day is coming when the same people who doubted you will have to watch God prove you right, without you saying a single word. Imagine for a moment the stillness of a battlefield after the noise has faded. The dust settles, the voices quiet, and the crowd that once roared in judgment now stands in uneasy silence. You are still standing, not because you fought with your fists or defended yourself with endless words, but because you trusted something far greater than human vindication. There is a strange and holy strength in silence. The world teaches us to react, to argue, to defend our honor in the heat of accusation. But God's way often feels upside down to human logic. He does not ask you to shout over your enemies. He asks you to hand him the pen and let him write the ending. And when he writes the ending, no one, not your critics, not your betrayers, not even the loudest liar, can erase it. Perhaps you have been accused unjustly. Perhaps you've been misunderstood, judged before the truth had a chance to breathe. Maybe you've been painted in colors that never belonged to you, and the picture of your life was distorted by those who found power in your humiliation. You wanted to clear your name, to set the record straight, but God whispered, "Be still." It is in those moments that faith feels like a quiet, trembling candle in the dark. But that candle, my friend, is stronger than the storm that rages against it. God's vindication is unlike anything the world can orchestrate. When He moves, He doesn't just restore your reputation, He elevates it. He doesn't just clear your name, He makes it shine brighter than before. He takes the very lies spoken against you and uses them as the stage upon which His truth will stand. And here's the mystery. You won't have to defend yourself, because the very people who doubted you will see with their own eyes what He has done. Think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused in a foreign land, left to rot in prison. He had every reason to fight his case, to scream his innocence, but he waited. And when God moved, Joseph didn't just get freedom. He was elevated to the highest place in Egypt. The same brothers who betrayed him bowed before him, not because Joseph demanded it, but because God's plan made it so. That is how the author of your life works. He writes stories no man can rewrite. Your silence is not weakness, it is a weapon placed in God's hands. Every moment you choose not to retaliate is a moment you allow heaven to take over the fight. There will come a day when those who laughed at you will fall silent, not because you shamed them, but because God Himself proved them wrong. And when He does, you won't need to say, "I told you so." His work will speak louder than any defense you could have crafted. So wait. Endure. Keep walking in integrity. Refuse to waste your breath on those determined to misunderstand you. For the same God who split the sea without Israel lifting a sword, who shut the lions' mouths without Daniel striking a blow, is the same God who will close the mouths of your accusers without you saying a single word. And when that moment comes, it will not just be your vindication, it will be His glory, because the world will know that your victory was not man-made, but heaven-given. There is a unique kind of strength in letting God fight the battles you attempted to fight with your own tongue. Human defense can only go so far. It is often limited by the opinions of others, by what people are willing to hear, and by the prejudices they already hold against you. When you defend yourself, you are still appealing to the same court that condemned you, without hearing the truth in the first place. But when God defends you, He does not appeal to men, He overrules them. Think about the difference between your voice and His hand. Your voice can speak, explain, and reason, but God's hand can rearrange circumstances, open doors, and expose lies in ways that leave no room for denial. People may debate words, but they cannot argue with undeniable change. When he proves you right, it is not through petty arguments but through undeniable evidence, and this evidence is not something you have to create. It is something he orchestrates in his timing for his glory. This is why he often calls us to silence. It is not the silence of defeat, but the silence of trust. When you step back, you give him space to move in ways you never could. If you rush ahead to defend yourself, you may block the very work he is setting in motion. He is not only interested in protecting your name, he is interested in transforming the entire narrative in such a way that even your enemies will have to acknowledge it. Consider how this plays out in the lives of those who trusted him. Daniel did not fight back when his enemies plotted to throw him into the lion's den. He didn't call witnesses, didn't beg the king to reconsider, didn't even plead his case before the crowd. He let God be the one to speak for him. And when the stone was rolled away and Daniel emerged unharmed, his innocence was proclaimed not by his own voice, but by the very outcome his enemies never saw coming. That's the beauty of divine vindication. It doesn't just silence the lie, it dismantles the entire foundation it stood on. God proves your integrity in such a way that those who once looked down on you are forced to see you differently. And here's the remarkable truth. When he does this, you won't even have to look back or say a word. The proof will be written in the life you now live, the blessings you now carry, and the peace you now walk in. Your defense, no matter how articulate, will never have the weight of God's evidence. Your explanation will never carry the authority of his intervention. That is why he tells you to let go of the urge to answer every accusation. The truth does not need constant defending. It needs time to rise to the surface, and when God lifts it into the light, no one will be able to deny what has been revealed. The world often sees silence as surrender. In human eyes, to remain quiet in the face of attack is to admit guilt or to show weakness. But in the kingdom of God, silence can be one of the most powerful weapons you possess, because it shifts the battle from the realm of human noise into the arena of divine power. When you choose silence, you are making a profound declaration. I trust God more than I trust my own ability to defend myself. This kind of trust is not passive. It is active faith. It takes courage to resist the temptation to answer every insult, to stay calm when your character is being misrepresented, to hold your peace when everything in you wants to prove them wrong. But when you do, your silence becomes a shield, protecting you from the traps set by those who wish to pull you into endless arguments. Your enemies may think they are winning when you do not respond, but in reality you are allowing them to walk deeper into the very snare they have set for themselves. The more they speak against you, the more room God has to let their own words be the rope they use to tie themselves up. Your stillness is not emptiness. It is a space for God's justice to manifest. This is why Scripture so often connects stillness with victory. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. It's a pattern repeated through the stories of faith. The Israelites stood still at the edge of the Red Sea, watching an army approach behind them. They could have turned to Moses in panic, shouting for him to negotiate with Pharaoh. But instead, they obeyed God's instruction to hold their ground. And in that stillness, God did what no human effort could. He split the sea and swallowed their enemies without them lifting a single weapon. Silence is a form of warfare that confuses the enemy. They expect retaliation, they prepare for counterattack, and when none comes, they are left exposed. It is in that unexpected pause that God moves, and when He moves, He doesn't just settle the matter. He writes a testimony that can never be erased. When you remain silent, you are not ignoring the wrong done to you. You are entrusting it to the only judge who sees every detail. You are declaring that your story will not be defined by the words of those who oppose you, but by the truth God Himself will reveal. And when the moment comes, when His timing unfolds, your silence will speak volumes, because the outcome will say what your lips never had to. When you are wronged, the instinct to clear your name often burns like fire in your chest. You want the truth revealed immediately, the lies dismantled before they take root. But God's way is different. He waits not because He is indifferent, but because He knows the perfect moment to act. His timing is not simply about your relief, it is about the completeness of His justice. There is a reason the truth sometimes stays hidden for a season. If it were revealed too early, it might only convince a few. If it comes too late, you might have already given up. But when it arrives in God's timing, it is undeniable, unshakable, and impossible to twist. By then, the very ones who tried to bury it will have no choice but to watch it rise, free from their control. Think of how seeds grow beneath the soil. No one sees the quiet process, yet something is happening. Roots are spreading, life is forming, and all the while it appears as though nothing is changing. Then one day, without warning, the green breaks through the dirt. That is how God works with the truth in your life. It may be hidden now, but it is not inactive. It is growing, strengthening, waiting for the moment He has prepared. When the right time comes, God has a way of aligning events so perfectly that even your enemies cannot deny His hand in it. Perhaps a hidden conversation comes to light, a secret confession is made, or circumstances shift in such a way that the truth is revealed without you lifting a finger. This is not coincidence, it is divine orchestration. And when it happens, you will see why He asked you to wait. In the meantime, patience is your protection. If you rush to defend yourself before God has finished preparing the stage, you risk standing in the way of the masterpiece He is creating. His timing ensures that when the truth comes out, it will not be partial, it will be complete. It will not only vindicate you, but also reveal the deeper reality of His justice at work. Waiting on His timing is an act of faith, because it means you trust Him to care more about your reputation than you do. You believe He sees the slander, hears the whispers, and knows the damage it has caused. And yet you also believe He is wise enough to handle it better than you could. That kind of faith is rare, but it is rewarded. When His timing arrives, the truth will not need to be shouted. It will stand on its own, visible for all to see. And the most powerful part? Those who once believed the lie will realize, without you speaking a single word, that they were wrong. And that realization, born from God's timing, will be far more powerful than anything you could have said in your own defense. In the moment of attack, it may seem as though your integrity counts for little. Lies travel faster than truth, and accusations echo louder than quiet faithfulness. People are quick to believe what they hear, especially when it feeds their assumptions. But integrity is not measured in days. It is measured over the span of a life, and a life lived with unwavering integrity will always outlast the temporary noise of false accusations. When you remain consistent in your character, even under pressure, you are building a testimony that no lie can destroy. Words may tarnish your image for a season, but actions, especially those repeated over time, have the power to erase shadows and reveal light. Every choice you make to do what is right, even when it costs you, is a stone laid in the foundation of your vindication. The people who judge you now may not be ready to see the truth, but time is a relentless teacher. Eventually they will compare your life's pattern with the accusations made against you, and the two will not match. It is then that they will realize the truth. that what was said about you could never align with the person you have consistently shown yourself to be. This is why God often tells his people to endure. It is not about passively accepting injustice. It is about actively living in such a way that every day becomes a silent witness in your favor. When your integrity remains intact, the falsehoods spoken about you begin to lose their power. Over time, they fade because they cannot survive in the presence of undeniable goodness. Consider Job, a man who lost everything and was falsely accused by even his closest companions. They assumed his suffering must have been the result of hidden sin, yet Job's life told a different story. His unwavering faith, his refusal to curse God, and his consistent righteousness stood in stark contrast to the accusations. In the end, God restored him, and the truth of his character was undeniable, not because Job fought with words, but because his life itself was the proof. Integrity also has a way of making your enemies uncomfortable. They may attack you expecting retaliation, but when you refuse to stoop to their level, they are left with no fuel for their fire. Your calmness under pressure becomes its own kind of statement, a living testimony that you will not be defined by their words, but by the truth God sees in you. Your role is to keep living in such a way that your actions contradict the lies without you having to speak a single word. Over time, the weight of your integrity will tip the scales in your favor, and when God chooses to bring the truth to light, your consistent faithfulness will be the foundation upon which he builds your vindication. It is one of God's most poetic acts of justice. He will often choose the very place where you were mocked, dismissed, or betrayed to be the stage where he elevates you. The stage they thought would be your downfall becomes the platform for your honor. And when it happens, there is no mistaking that it is his doing, because the contrast between what they expected and what he delivers is too great to ignore. You see this all throughout Scripture. The cross was meant to be a symbol of shame for Jesus, yet it became the very foundation of eternal salvation. Joseph's prison cell was meant to break him, yet it was from there that God positioned him for the palace. David's years in the wilderness, fleeing from Saul, were meant to erase his name from the nation's memory, yet they became the training ground for his kingship. God delights in taking the places meant to humiliate you and turning them into the backdrop for your victory. The reason he does this is clear. His justice is not just about restoring you privately, but about making a public statement of his faithfulness. If you were honored in a place where no one knew your struggle, the impact would be less. But when he lifts you up in the very sight of those who thought you were finished, it becomes a testimony that cannot be silenced. Those who doubted you will have to watch as God himself proves your worth. Sometimes this feels uncomfortable because the same people who wounded you will be there to witness your rise, but this is intentional. He wants the story to be complete. If they had never seen the pit, they would not understand the magnitude of the palace. If they had never seen your tears, they would not understand the depth of your joy. God uses the same audience for both acts, so that when the curtain rises in your favor, the contrast is undeniable. This is why you must not run from the places that hurt you. Sometimes God will call you back to them, not for revenge, but for redemption. And when you stand there, not in bitterness, but in peace, not in defeat, but in victory, you will realize that the battle was never really between you and them. It was always about God showing what he can do when his children trust him completely. When this moment comes, you won't need to say, "I told you so." The circumstances will speak for you. Your life will be the evidence, your blessings the testimony, and your peace the undeniable sign that God's hand has been at work. And the beauty of it all, the very ground where you once felt small will be the place where you stand tallest. not because you made it happen, but because he did. There is a quiet strength in refusing to be shaken, and it is a strength that unsettles those who expect to see you fall apart. Your enemies do not simply want to hurt you, they want to watch you unravel. They feed on the sight of your distress, hoping it will validate their actions and justify their judgments. But when you carry yourself with peace, even in the midst of their attacks, you rob them of the satisfaction they sought. Peace is not pretending nothing has happened. It is knowing that what has happened cannot stop what God is doing. It is rooted in the assurance that your life is in His hands, that He sees the injustice, and that He is already working behind the scenes to make things right. This kind of peace is not fragile. It is unshakable, because it does not depend on circumstances. It comes from knowing the outcome is already decided in your favor, even if you cannot see it yet. When you walk in this peace, it becomes a shield against the schemes of those who wish you harm. Their words may be sharp, but they cannot pierce the calm that comes from trusting God. Their actions may be cruel, but they cannot reach the part of you that is anchored in His promises. And while they are busy plotting your downfall, your peace becomes a reminder that they have no real power over you. Instead, your peace becomes a reminder that they have no real power over you. This is why the enemy hates to see you calm, because it means you are still standing in faith. It means you are not feeding the cycle of conflict. It means you are not giving him control over your emotions. And for those who wanted to see you break, your peace becomes their frustration. They expected you to crumble, but instead you continue to rise, quietly, steadily, and without a single word to them. Peace also has a way of speaking louder than defense. People notice when someone remains composed under pressure. They notice when accusations do not lead to retaliation. They notice when a person, though surrounded by negativity, refuses to let it shape their spirit. And, over time, this consistency forces them to question the lies they once believed. After all, it is difficult to maintain a false accusation when the accused continues to walk in evident grace. When you carry this peace, you are not ignoring the pain. You are choosing not to let it define you. You are saying, without speaking, that God is your refuge, your defender, and your vindicator. And one day, the very people who tried to disrupt your life will be left to wonder why they could not break you. That is when they will realize your strength was never your own. It came from the one who kept you still while he fought for you. There is a difference between you proving yourself right and God proving you right. When you speak in your own defense, the sound may be loud for a moment, but it eventually fades into the noise of other voices. People may remember parts of what you said, but their opinions are still swayed by their own perspectives, emotions, and alliances. But when God speaks for you, there is no fading, no debate, and no erasing what He declares. His word does not pass away. It becomes part of the eternal record. When God steps in to vindicate you, it is not just a matter of setting the record straight for today. It is about establishing the truth for all time. His defense reaches beyond the ears of those present in the moment. It ripples outward, touching hearts you never thought would see your side, and it penetrates even the conscience of those who will never admit they were wrong. There is no argument that can stand against his verdict, because his authority is absolute. And here is the beauty of his way. He doesn't need to humiliate those who wronged you in order to honor you. His justice is not fueled by revenge, it is fueled by truth. But that truth will often bring discomfort to those who have lived in falsehood. They may never publicly acknowledge their error, but they will carry the knowledge of it quietly, and it will shape how they see you from that day forward. Think about the story of Haman and Mordecai. Haman plotted against Mordecai, built gallows for his destruction, and spread influence to turn the king against him. Yet in a single turn of events orchestrated by God, the king honored Mordecai publicly, while Haman, the one who sought to destroy him, was forced to witness it. Mordecai didn't have to campaign for his honor or fight for recognition. God moved in a way that ensured the honor was undeniable, the memory of it unshakable. That's the kind of vindication that leaves an echo. When God speaks for you, He speaks in a way that leaves a mark. People remember it, they repeat it, and it becomes part of your testimony. That moment becomes one of those stories others tell about you. I remember when. They recall how you stayed calm, how you stayed silent, and how the truth eventually shone so brightly that no one could deny it. This is why it is worth waiting for His voice, rather than rushing to use your own. His timing, His method, and His authority will make the defense far stronger than anything you could say. And when He does speak, you will know the difference. His vindication doesn't just close the chapter, it writes a legacy. It is not a whisper in the wind. It is a declaration that remains. So, hold your ground in faith. Keep living in a way that honors Him. Refuse to be drawn into battles of words with those committed to misunderstanding you. For when He speaks, the world will hear. Not because you shouted louder, but because heaven itself has spoken on your behalf. And that echo will outlast every lie, every rumor, and every false accusation made against you. Some you may not. My friend, the call on your life is too great to waste in the arena of petty arguments. The one who knit you together in your mother's womb, who numbered your days before you ever lived one, has not brought you this far to let a lie define your destiny. He sees every word spoken against you, every glance that judged you, every hand that moved to undermine you. And He is not silent. He is working even now to prepare the moment when His justice will break through like the dawn. You do not need to spend your energy defending yourself before people who are not ready to hear the truth. Your silence is not surrender, it is an offering. It is placing your reputation, your pain, and your future in the hands of the only one who can hold them perfectly. And when He moves, He will do it in such a way that no one will be able to deny His hand was upon you. There will come a day when those who doubted you will see with their own eyes what God has done. The voices that once spoke against you will fall quiet, not because you silenced them, but because truth has made their words meaningless. You will stand, not in bitterness, but in peace. Not with a heart full of vengeance, but with a soul overflowing with gratitude for the God who fights your battles. So walk on, steady and unshaken. Keep your head lifted and your spirit anchored, for the one who promised to be your defender is faithful. And when He proves them wrong, you won't need to say a single word. The evidence will speak for itself, and the glory will be His alone.